partition is what we use for this practice. No signal.
It says computer, and that's the RGB.
Yeah.
But it's not working.
I don't get it. It worked when Mark showed us. We need this for tomorrow's movie night.
Yeah, I'm really less worried about that. No offense.
No, that's okay. I mean, just
Okay.
we need to figure this out.
Let's
Well, we're getting here
do
early,
plan
Mara.
B.
Maybe there's a good reason for that.
So we need to figure out the time for tomorrow morning.
I know there were two connections that Mark talked about reversing them.
Okay. I was playing soft. And I'll sit in the front and just pop up every time.
Ladies and gents, we're just doing a sound check. Don't worry about us. Making sure we can hear.
What, can we use that one because it's a bigger screen? It's a sound check. Keep talking amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Okay, so it's fine now. I think that should be fine for half an hour.
keep it down like this.
Send that to her.
To who?
To Shannon.
Oh, yeah. Here's another copy. I have like 5, 6 copies.
But
Give one to her.
if need to be,
Need to make sure she has.
David,
She's so good.
if for some reason mine's not working the way it should, then we should. If for some reason
You can also borrow one
one's
of
not
mine.
working the way it should, then we should have this one ready to go too.
You got it. I feel like at this point I should just get rid of this.
Just move it to the side. I can do it. You gave up?
Use our computers instead. Adonai, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. Beautiful poetry written by Hannah Senesh and put to music years and years ago by David Zahavi. I only saw Zaha, so I was guessing. And so beautifully played by Michael Sumigu, and thank you so much for that. Of course, beautifully sung. We would expect nothing less. And I want to welcome everyone to Congregation Bnai Tzedek here in Fountain Valley. We are the only synagogue in Fountain Valley, which makes me the chief rabbi of Fountain Valley. Self-appointed chief rabbi of Fountain Valley. Tonight is being co-sponsored with us, with the Lutheran Church of the Resurrection, and with Temple Beth Shalom. So big thank you to Pastor James Pike and Rabbi Sharon Sobel for joining us tonight. And I know that there are people from each organization here, so we're going to give you a little woo time. So if you're here with Pastor Pike, give us a little woo. All right. If you're here with Rabbi Sobel, give us a little woo. All right. And all my people. Love that ruach. Energy, spirit. And we're going to be using Hebrew tonight quite a bit. And don't panic. Under your chair, the chair in front of you, you will find Mishkan Tefillah. It's the blue book with the gold flames. If the book is really thick and says the Torah, trade it. When we're singing a prayer in Hebrew, we're going to be very careful to call out page numbers so that whatever the Hebrew is, you can read the English along with. And this is our Sabbath. Shabbat is our day of rest. So while we are using microphones and screens to help enhance the service experience, we would ask that you turn your phones to silent, double check that they're on silent right now. You're not going to need them. We're not receiving that kind of call this evening. And you're not going to need to use them as cameras or anything like that, so you can just put them all the way away. Maybe the clergy will pose for pictures later, but did I forget to introduce us? As I am wont to do, to forget us. So Jenna Sagan is our cantorial soloist, Chazanit Rav, Erev Chazanit. Almost, she's preparing to be ordained as a cantor next month. We're very excited for that. And I want to give also a little kavod, a little honor and respect to Rabbi Stephen Einstein, who's our Rabbi Emeritus. He was here a couple years. 36 years. And my name is Rabbi David Young. So thank you so much for being here. When someone, if you do not happen to be Jewish and someone tonight says to you, Shabbat Shalom, you say, Shabbat Shalom. So let's try it. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. That was so good. I didn't even have to make them do it again. I know. We are going to continue our service on pages 2 and 3 in the prayer book when we light our candles. We light candles to welcome Shabbat, and we're going to invite Rabbi Sobel to kindle our Sabbath lights.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light. So may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Amen. You may be seated. Shabbat begins when the sun sets, technically. But it also begins when we light the candles. And this is an acknowledgement of the combination of the movement of the natural universe. When the sun sets, when the earth is spinning and the light goes away from our perspective, that's when Shabbat starts. But there also needs to be human action. The action of lighting the candles and saying the prayers. Those two things combined really make it Shabbat. And our presence together as three communities celebrating as one makes it even more special because it's an extra connection to the human action of us bringing Shabbat as a community. And when you are so excited that we're doing something together, you get filled with emotions. If anyone has ever seen a musical or watched Schmigadoon or anything like that, you know that when we are full of emotions, there's only one thing to do: sing. Page 20, Lecha Dodi. We'll do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Some
So the Shema, which we just recited, is from the book of Deuteronomy. It declares the uniqueness of our God, and it's come to be known as the watchword of our faith. We say it when we lie down at night, when we wake up in the morning. It's in the mezuzot, the scroll which we place on the doorposts of our house, on all of the rooms, except for the restroom, not on the garage door. And it reminds us that we are all God's people, that there is one God, no matter if we are Jewish, if we are Christian, if we are Muslim. And the V'ahavta, which comes immediately after on page 36, is a checklist of all those things that we are supposed to do each and every day to remind ourselves that there is one God, that we have to love ourselves, love God with all of our heart, with all of our mind, with all of our being. And these words, too, are in the mezuzot. If you've seen pictures, if you're not Jewish, if you've seen pictures of people with those little boxes on their heads and on those arms, those are called tefillin. That's inside. The words of the V'ahavta and the Shema are also inside there. Usually we chant the V'ahavta. We're going to read it in English. These words are from Deuteronomy as well. So we'll read together on page 36 in the English. Please join me. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and let them serve as a symbol upon your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus shall you remember and to observe all my commandments and be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. And we'll continue on page 39, responsively. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot.
Wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. Thank you. That there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness.
That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. And singing. Micha Mocha.
Page 40.
Adonai Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hush me,
We are about to move into what is known as the Amidah or Hatfilah or Shmona Esrei. It goes by many different names because we come at it from many different angles. It is the central prayer of any prayer service, and the way our custom here at CBT, two things that you need to know, one for everyone and one if you're used to doing it different ways. The one for everyone, we'll do the first three blessings as a community and the rest in silence. And if you want to read what's on the page, great. And if you want to read what's in your head, great. One of the things I like to do is suggest something on which to meditate. And as I look around tonight, I am filled with feelings of gratitude and blessing for this community, for this threefold community that we have this evening. So if you feel like meditating on the blessing of community, that's what I would encourage this evening. The other thing is that during the first of the three blessings, which is on page 48, we are going to add 4 words that aren't on the page. We bless our fathers and mothers, our ancestral fathers and mothers. And the way the prayer is written is Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And it's come to our attention that there are 2 other mothers of Israel, Bilhah and Zilpah, who we've not been mentioning since we added the mothers to this prayer 40 years ago. It used to just be the fathers, and then we went, hey, we're feminists, what about our mothers? And then we went, hey, you forgot some of the mothers. So we'll add Bilhah and Zilpah. It's the same melody you're used to, but if you want to just pause for a sec, that's okay too. So we're going to rise, begin, and the blessing begins on page 46.
Adonai Satai Tifta, Adonai Satai Tifta, Ufi Yaki Tehi Hata. מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסירים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות ומדומך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללו הסלע, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We finish silently on our own, and whenever you are finished, you may be seated. While we have the attention of the divine, as it were, while God is listening close to our prayers, I mentioned this was the climax of the service. This is where we have God's ear, so to speak. And so we offer one more prayer, one more thing we want to ask for. And even though we don't usually ask for things on Shabbat, it's okay to ask for this, and that's healing. Healing for people in our community, in our lives, who are in need of our prayers right now. And we're going to encourage you to just say a name out loud, or if you're watching from home, write it in the chat. Tonight we are thinking of blessings on page 253. May all those whose names we say aloud and all those whose names remain on our hearts be blessed with a complete healing as we say together. Amen. I'm very excited. Oh, sorry. very excited to be here tonight. That was an aside. We are going to continue on page 282 for the blessing Aleinu, which calls for our unity, God's unity, and the responsibility we all have to praise together. Please rise. Seated. This coming week, we commemorate Yom HaShoah. Yom HaShoah is Holocaust Remembrance Day, and it's part of the reason we have Rabbi Romberg coming this evening is in preparation for Holocaust Remembrance Day. And as we prepare to think about our own loved ones and those who we have personally lost, we want to offer this blessing known as El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim is a blessing that is said in memory of those who have died. Usually is said during Yisker service, which is a service that we have 4 times a year. One of them was Wednesday, and so we are thinking about the memory of those. It's really like the Jewish way to say rest in peace. And because it's the Jewish way to say it, it's long. So we offer the memory, this blessing for their memory, and I will read it in Hebrew and then in English. And if you are so inclined to rise in memory of the victims of the Holocaust, we encourage you to do so. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona al Kanfei Hashchina, V'ma'alot Kedoshim U'Tohorim, K'zohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmot Acheinu B'nei Yisrael, HaKadoshim V'Hatohorim Shenaflu B'yadei HaRotzchim, V'nifshar Damim beAuschwitz, Majdanek, Treblinka, uvesha'ar machanot, hashmad be'Europa, shenehergu, shenishchatu, v'shenishrefu, v'shenit ba'u, shenechenku al kidosh Hashem. Ba'avur shekol hakahal hakadosh Hazeh mitpalalim ba'ad hazakarim nishmotam. Began Eden tehe menuchatam. Lachein ba'al arachamim. Yastirehem b'seter knafav laolamim. U'tzror b'tzurachayim et nishmatam. Adonai hu nachalatam. V'yanuchu al mishkavotam v'shalom v'nomar. Amen. God, who are full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant perfect rest in your divine presence to all the souls of our holy and pure brethren, whose blood was spilt by the murderers in Auschwitz, Belzec, Bergen-Belsen, Dachau, Majdanek, Sobibor, Treblinka, and other extermination camps in Europe, who were killed, strangled, burned, and buried alive for the sanctification of your name. For whose souls we now pray, may their resting place be in the Garden of Eden, May the Master of Mercy shelter them in the shadow of the divine wings for eternity, and may God bind their souls in the bond of life. Adonai is their heritage. May they rest in peace as we say together. Amen. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed in our lives, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We remember the holy martyrs of every age of Jewish memory, from the Crusades to the Inquisition, from the English expulsion to the Russian pogroms, from the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem to the destruction of communities in the Holocaust. We remember those who have given their lives in defense of our nation and in defense of the state of Israel. We also take to heart the 862 Americans who lost their lives this week to gun violence. As we remember them all, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. This week from the CBT community, we are remembering the yahrzeit commemorating the anniversary of their death of Samuel Alswang, father of Barry Alswang, Joe Biebelberg, remembered by Debbie Biebelberg, Barbara Bloch, mother of Adrian Greenberg, Irene Blumenthal, mother of Richard Blumenthal, Ruth Milkas Boxenbaum, mother of Paulette Feinstein, Herman Dwoskin, uncle of Cantor Linda Ecker, Harry Philip Feiner, father of Debbie Goldstein, Muriel Weisberg Frankel, mother of Wendy Frankel, David Gelfand, father of Sandy Gelfand, Bob Halprin, father of Greg Halprin, Ruth Hoffman, mother of Sharon Lang, Robert W. Jenks, Mindy Kempler, grandmother of Andy Kempler, Marty Klein, Carol Windmiller Lipton, sister of Wendy Cohen, Doris B. Michael, mother of Jan Michael, Rabbi Mark Miller, Pesha Slavatsky Miltz, grandmother of Paulette Feinstein, Shimon Miltz, grandfather of Paulette Feinstein, Frank E. Novak, father of Susan Backer, Yariv Oren, mentor of Gideon Ariel, Anne Rosen, remembered by Sue Rosen, Marvin Ross, father of Ron Ross, Edna Mae Sampson, grandmother of Alan Osborne, and great-grandmother of Ezra and Ella Mae Osborne. Yitzhak Salinas, remembered by Kathleen Heimoff, Morris Schechter, grandfather of Marcia Schechter, Toba Schwartz, grandmother of Larry Sirota and Martin Sirota, Martha Sprigger.
And from Temple Beth Shalom, we mention the names of those for whom their families are observing their yortzeit. Betty Rikus Arshan, Bessie Barkan, Michelle Sierra Caru, Ninetta Eliezer, Donald Gerber, Morris Givant, Charles Glassman, Ruth Groner, Elaine Harris, Morris Kaplan, Rosaline Karp, Mort Levinson, Gertrude Marks, Janet Melman, Shimon Miltz, Pesha Miltz, Judith Lee Rice, Grand M. Savrin, Celia Shub, Edith Sugarman, Edwin Allen Siegel, Sidel Smith, Ina Tokerman, Israel Chubin, Ree Wasserman, Louis R. Weinberg, Martin Bernard Weinberg, Fred Weiss, and Sonia Walensky Willen. Zichronam Livracha.
Are there any other names for Kaddish this evening? The memories of all of them are with us. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we continue with Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'amad divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei jechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru. Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam U'amei Amayam.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'halal shmei d'kudusha le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen. Aseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
And the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world, to which we say,
Amen.
you may be seated. Except for you, Brian.
Yes. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. My name is Brian Offner. I'm on the board of directors here at CBT. Welcome all of our new friends and family to CBT as well. First of all, what I'd like to do is thank the Schnurs in the back, Hedda and Richard, for being our ushers this evening. Also, I would like to thank our honored guests on the Bima, Rabbi Jack Rombers, Rabbi Sharon Sobel, and Pastor James Pike. Thank you for being here tonight. If you look inside of our little pamphlet here, we have 4 things that are coming up, coming events. I am going to talk about 2 of them tonight. One is the camp out, which is going to be on Friday the 21st through Sunday the 23rd of April. There are still spots open. It's $50 per person. As you can read, it includes campsite, parking, 1 vehicle, food for 5 meals, and fun programming. Okay, and the second one I'd like to announce is tomorrow night, the Brotherhood is sponsoring a Jewish movie night. It's right here in our social hall, and so that's come on out tomorrow night and join us for that. It's a double feature: Why the Jews and When Jews Were Funny. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, thank you.
And if you are not going to the camp out, do not worry. You can come and worship in this space. I will be leading services along with Barbara Heimom. Holly Gordon will be reading our Torah next week. So you have many incredible options for worship, either at the camp out outside or in our sanctuary space.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, we're going to continue with Oseh Shalom, which you can use the same page we were just on. And it's also on page 343.
Oh, right.
Aseh shalom, shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Aseh shalom, shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Aseh shalom, shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael
Thank you so much, Michael. It was I thought it was 2019 when you and I met, but I was told we met earlier. I was told tonight we met earlier. So Rabbi Romberg and I are both part of a study group, a chevre, that gathers in the very difficult conditions on Miami Beach every winter. We spend the days, about 3 days together studying. We study very hard, and then we play very hard, and we eat really good food. And Rabbi Romberg was working as a rabbi at Temple Israel in Tallahassee, Florida, until the summer of 2019. And so when I met him, he was in a really good mood, because retirement was very close. And I've got some time. It's good, right? Never been so busy. So that's what Rabbi Einstein says to me. He's never been so busy since he retired. So I remember my first time with this group, we were asked to bring our favorite text, and I brought a text that I knew okay. And walking to lunch, Rabbi Romberg said, I want to walk with you and tell you something. You know, it's really important when you're doing a page of Talmud that you know all the source material they're quoting. And because I had a middling grasp on it. And because of that coaching, that bit of advice that my rabbi taught me, I started delving a little deeper into studying Talmud and paying a little more attention and going into the sources and spending more time. And I've been studying the Talmud a page a day for the last a little more than 3.5 years. And using Rabbi Romberg's advice, it has enriched my Torah study and my Talmud study, and for that I am eternally grateful. And while he is not serving as a rabbi in a congregation, he is a rabbi of second career. He was working in a furniture store, in his father's furniture store, and then in his early 30s decided to become a rabbi. And right when he graduated, when he was ordained from HUC, Hebrew Union College, my wife and I started. So we missed each other there. And thankfully got back together in 2019. He's been for a long time deeply involved in the interfaith community. And knowing that, I thought it would be a very special thing for some of us to come together and study his book. And I thought about studying with an interfaith colleague, and I went immediately to Pastor James Pike, who he and I have spent a lot of time sitting at coffee shops and you know, having coffee together, having you know, maybe some other liquids together, and I don't think I'm telling anyone anything they don't know. And then when the idea came to study together the Rabbi Romberg's book, A Doorway to Heroism, he jumped at the opportunity, and we had a lovely study group about 3 weeks ago. And if you were there, will you just kind of raise your hand? And excellent. Thank you so much. So we had a nice sized study group discussing the book from our perspective. And what an honor it is to have Rabbi Romberg here to learn from the source, as it were, and really get into the story behind the story. So without further ado, I know you don't want to hear me talk tonight because you're here to see Rabbi Jack Romberg.
Thank you. Of course, it's always good to be with Rabbi David, as we became friends. We became really friends in 2019 when we were together. Is that working? Yes. Okay, good. Okay, I'll get this started.
There's an aphorism in Yiddish that I don't speak Yiddish, but I can translate it. It says humans plan and God laughs. So we have this screen up and we had a projector out and it's not working. I don't know why it's not working. I'm a rabbi. So, but I do know we're going to do our best to use these two screens in front of you. If you want opera glasses, you can get them just right over there. Target's down the street. So we will do our best.
All right, we can put it on the first. There we go. Okay. All right, if you see this picture, take a guess. Who's sitting there? Who do you think that is? Yes. It's Uncle Richard, yes. My dad's uncle, okay. It was his mother's brother, okay. He was my great uncle. And this photo is of when I was 6 years old. That was in June of 1960, okay. Now, what was going on is that we had moved from New York down to Fairmont, West Virginia, because Dad had to move his business down there, his manufacturing down there for a bit. We actually had moved down when I was about 1.5 years old, okay? So we were down there, and it was the first time that Uncle Richard, who had moved at the same time from New York to Allentown, Pennsylvania, anyway, it was the first time that he could actually come and visit us down in Fairmont, West Virginia. And we lived in a house that was on a high hill, okay? And the street was, basically just, was basically dirty, dirt street, okay? And the houses were only on one side because the other side actually was a forest. And as you go up, you would get to a meadow. All right, so you see this, you can all see this picture, okay? So Dad had us sitting there so that he could take our picture, but Uncle Richard, see, he never told me anything of his history, okay, as well I was a kid. What he said to me as we're sitting together is he goes, "Okay, Jackie, we have to go and find some of the Indians." See, he had read a book when he was way back when he was about in his early teenage times. He read a book about the American Indians that really made him very interested in the Indians. So he said, "We have to go and find the Indians, and we have to talk to them." So we go up the street, we go into the meadow, and as we're walking along the forest, the edge of the forest, all of a sudden, I saw this chair that somebody had thrown out into the forest, okay, and it was like this big chair that looked crappy and it was all messed up or whatever. And I turned to Uncle Richard and I said, "Well, what are we going to do with this? What's this all about?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Jackie, that was Sitting Bull's favorite chair." That's the kind of thing that he loved to do with me. He loved to do walking and fun things with me. Okay, let's do the next one. Oh, okay, good. It worked for you? Yay. Okay. Okay. Now this, so I want to make sure yes, okay. That is the house that was put together by Seligman Stern. Seligman Stern, he was Uncle Richard Stern's great-grandpa, who was born in 1793. And he was actually born not in Prussia, but he was born, he was born in Bavaria, okay? And Jews back in the 1700s, in the 18th century, they had very little ability to do anything. They were not allowed to do so many things. And, they were not, so they were only allowed to live in certain towns or certain cities, and only in some places were ghettos. And in any case, in 1812, in Prussia, the king there actually did emancipation for the Jews in Prussia. Now, Germany was not a united country at that point. Germany was something like 35 different states, German states, okay, but they weren't together. Well, in Bavaria, okay, which is where Seligman Stern had been born, of course, in 1812, they didn't do any emancipation for Jews. And in fact, in 1819, there were riots in Bavarian cities demolishing Jewish homes and stores. And they were shouting, so many of the Germans in that state were shouting, "Death to all Jews." Well, since Jews were doing better in Prussia, Seligman Stern wanted to live in Prussia. And so he moved to the town of Weilerswist. Okay. Turn the next one. Now, 90% of all the Jews were still poor, but in Weilerswist and Freischheim and Erfstadt, a set of 3 smaller towns, well, that was in Prussia. And Jews were finally allowed to live there. And Seligman Stern was a key part of building that place. And this picture, this is the blueprint of the synagogue that he designed and he built, okay? And what I showed you, the house that was in the prior one, that was also something that he built. That was in Freischheim, and he built the synagogue right next to that house, okay? I learned that and got that photo because when I was doing my, working to learn the things about it in Germany, I was in Weilerswist, and I was working with Dagmar Theisen and Helene Curtin. Dagmar Theisen was in charge of things in Weilerswist and also a bit in Freischheim in terms of, the history there. But Helene Curtin, she's not Jewish, but she had written a book about the Jews in those 3 towns which were together because it was all new for them. And they made it clear that Seligman Stern, that was Uncle Richard's, like I said, his great-grandpa, that would be my great-great-great-grandpa, okay? And that he actually did work to help get the Jews set up in these towns. He was a big part of this. Okay. Next, let's go to the next one. Yes. Okay. Now, one of Seligman Stern's grandchildren, Marcus Stern, that was Uncle Richard's father. Okay? Marcus Stern actually did a good job of building building himself up and doing business and so forth. And what he did in the late 1890s, in fact, 1898, he built the largest house ever built in Weilerswist. And this is the photo of it. And you could see, if you were really seeing, you'd see that it's Villa Stern, okay? And in fact, that is where Uncle Richard was born. He was born in that house. He was born in 1899 on February 22nd. By the way, do you know who else was born on February 22nd? Huh? George Washington. Right, George Washington. So there was a time when I was a little kid that Dad called Uncle Richard on February 22nd, and he handed me the phone. He wanted me to wish him a happy birthday. And I get on the phone, and Uncle Richard goes, "Hello, this is George Washington." Yeah, that's the kind of thing that he liked to do, okay? So when I did to start to do the work to find the things that I needed to do the research that I was focused to do in Germany, I went to Weilerswist, and then what I saw was this, the next one. Weilerswist owns the city, that city owns the house. And it's still there, and it's in great shape. And what they use it for is they use it to teach children and teenagers how to sing, how to dance, and how to do acting. And they showed it to me, and there's pictures of me with actually my cousin. I don't have it in this particular one, but I do show it sometimes to some places of a picture of me with actually she would be my dad's first cousin, but she was born in 48. I was born in 54. And we met each other in 2012, and we became very, very close. And she actually helped me with all of my research. And, because she was born in Germany, and she was raised in Germany. And she was fantastic. She is fantastic. In fact, honestly, now that, this pandemic is really done, I can't wait to get back to Germany so I can be with Anne and spend some time with her. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so World War I began on July 29th of 1914. Is there a problem with that one? Oh, I can see. It's okay. It's okay. Go. Actually, yes, that would be good. I'm sorry. I thought you were. Yes, that would be terrific. Thank you so much. Okay. So that would be perfect, okay. However, on August 4th of 1914, Kaiser Wilhelm, okay, the Emperor of Germany, he made an announcement that day, early that day. He made an announcement and went out to everybody that all people in Germany should get together and be good with each other. And he said it doesn't matter what religion you're in, it doesn't matter what political party you're in, everybody has to be able to respect each other and treat each other well. Well, the German Jews were so thrilled about what this meant. And of course, they wanted to support Germany. And a huge, huge number of German Jews volunteered for the German army on the exact same day, August 4th of 1914. Now, the person who is in this picture, okay, that is Heinrich Stern, Uncle Richard's older brother, who's like 8 years older than Uncle Richard was, okay? And so that's a picture of him in the German army. Next one. I'm sorry? Okay. All right. Now, World War I, of course, didn't go very, very well for Germany, okay? And in the summer, the late summer of 1916, the war minister in Germany, he started an action against the Jews in the fall of 1916. He decided that they should be against the Jews. He was one of the ultra-right people that was in the, in the government there, okay? And what he did is he had a census done to try to show that Jews were not really helping in the war. He figured we can tell our people that we're losing because the Jews are not doing enough. Okay? Well, it turned out that his census didn't go the direction that he wanted it to go, because it turned out that 80% of the Jews were actually on the front line and really fighting. 7,000 of the Jews had already been decorated with medals. Okay? And that was by the fall of 1916. Well, okay. This photo is of Richard Stern, Uncle Richard. Now you can, well, actually, you know what? We'll hold on just a little bit. Uncle Richard was drafted in June of 1917. Okay, he didn't volunteer. He just decided, I mean, he had no problem with being drafted, but he was drafted, okay, because he had just turned 18 just a few months earlier. Okay, now I can change it. Okay, this is Uncle Richard's service booklet. Now, I actually found that with the pile of documents that I actually got that had to do with Uncle Richard. I had seen this stuff decades ago because my dad had it, all right? And one of the things, Dad had all of this stuff from Uncle Richard, piles of his letters, piles of his documents, and so forth. Well, Dad died in 2008. In 2017, Mom had decided to sell the house that they had owned for a long, long time, and she was going to move to a senior living apartment instead of taking care of a house, and that was in Boca Raton, okay, which is she was just right near Boca Raton, but she decided to move. So she had boxes of things that Dad had put together. Mostly they were albums of photos that Dad had taken of the two of them while they were on different different things. They were like in different cities and traveling and so forth. And Mom didn't want those anymore. So she said to me, "Jack, I'm going to throw this stuff out." Well, I was, of course, working. That was when I was in Tallahassee. I was in charge of the congregation in Tallahassee, for a long, long time. Well, I said to Mom, "Okay, I'm going to drive down and I'm going to pick up all the boxes. Don't throw them out, because I'm going to check out what they have, and most of it is probably stuff that I'll throw out, but there may be some things that I want or that my brothers want, so I'll take it from you." So I went down, I took it all back to our home in Tallahassee, and what I found was all of Uncle Richard's documents and letters and stuff. So this, like I said, was his service booklet. Well, when I was in Germany in September of 2019 doing my research, well, friends of my cousin Anne, they are Margaret and France Disson, and they happen to be people who are historians on the German, German army, okay? So we had dinner with them, and they read all of the booklet, and they went through the whole thing with me. And what this booklet shows, first of all, this is all of the battles that he was in, starting in June of 1917, but in February 21st, I'm sorry, not in June of 1917 when he was drafted, but in December 1st of 1917 is when he really started to be in a bunch of battles. In February 21st of 1918, he was in an extremely difficult battle in Flanders, Belgium, as a machine gunner, and his book was praised by the lieutenant commander of his company. And in the summer, he was moved to the front line near Alsace-Lorraine, and he participated in German offensive battles near Champagne and so forth. He was really battling so much. Well, he did something very bravely in the July offensive, and on August 22nd, he was awarded the Iron Cross. Okay? Well, one of the things that happened just after August in Germany is so many protests throughout all of Germany by people Germans who felt that Germany should end the war and that the people should be just living normally and that they shouldn't have this. And so many of the Germans then, well, yes, there were lots of right people who were, racist and anti-Semitist and so forth. But the bulk of the people in Germany at that point wanted, and of course, right after the war, they started the Weimar Republic, okay, and got rid of the Kaiser. They got rid of the king. They got rid of him, okay. So let's do the next one. So this is a picture of Uncle Richard in the 1920s. All right, he was active in the Social Democratic Party, which was very active, of course, in the Weimar Republic. He took over his father's business and built it so beautifully and so forth. He really was fantastic in how he was building himself, and he was a typical German Jew who was moving in the right direction in especially the early to middle and even into the end of the 1920s. Well, however, there were still some things that didn't do well for German Jews, and one of them was, I don't know if anybody knows who Walter Rathenau is. Anybody know who Walter Rathenau is? Who is he? Okay, Walter Rathenau, he was the German Jew who had the highest position a German Jew ever had in the government. He had become, in the end of 1921, the foreign minister. But he was killed by the ultra-right in June of 1922. They killed him. Next one. All right, this is a very important picture. That's Martha, Uncle Richard's sister, and the little boy that she's holding there at 5 years old, that's my dad. That's Rudy, my dad. Okay. Now, what Uncle Richard did is he ended up raising my dad. See, Martha met Walter Romberg back in 22, okay? And she married him in the end of February of 1923, and I didn't know why she did, but I didn't know why for a long time, but in 1913, when I was doing some research in Germany about the Rombergs, I found that she married Walter Romberg because Dad was born on that day that I didn't know what day that they actually were married, but that's when I found what day that they were married. Dad was born on July 11th of 23. So that's clear that they had to get married because she was pregnant. Okay? I actually called my mom from Germany, back in 2013 and told her about this. Okay. Dad didn't even know about that. What he knew is that Martha divorced Walter Romberg in 26. She got away from him in 25 with Dad, and in 26 they moved into Uncle Richard's house, which was on top of his business, his store. So by the end of 26, Uncle Richard was in charge of actually being, the one who raised Dad along with his sister. Okay, next one. Okay, now first of all, it's hard to see from being away this far, having this small, but Martha started, because she, wasn't married, she started to work for a company, okay, that was a restaurant, okay, and it turned out that I found that she was working for this was owned by the Katzes. The Katz family, they were the wealthiest group of German Jews in Cologne, okay, which is where they all lived, where my family all lived, okay? Now, they owned 6 stores in Cologne, and some of them, most of them were restaurants. Okay. Now, the Katz family, this Katz family, were cousins to the Stearns, and I knew some of them. I met some of them, a couple of them, when I was a kid that had made it out of Germany, and they actually a couple of them made it to London, all right, before the war. And one of those cousins of Dad's, he was always close with him, and I met him when I was 10 years old, because he visited us at that time we were living in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Okay, now, at this store, at this restaurant, in 1928, a couple of Nazi party guys, they claimed they were in the store, they were in the restaurant, and they claimed that there was a dead mouse in the goulash that they had ordered. And they put this against the Katzes and were saying terrible things about German Jews in 1928. But the court actually went against them in 1928. Now to the next. Well, now we go to 1933. Okay. Hitler and the Nazis rose very high at the end of 29 into the early of 1930s, but in 1932 they got the most votes, for the, in the voting that was going on there. Okay. However, they didn't win enough to take full control of the parliament. Well, on January 30th of 1933, the guy who was the president, who was a very conservative former person who was head of the army back in World War I, he put Hitler into position, and so Hitler made his power then, and the Nazis got their power at the end of January 30th, at the end of January of 1933. Their first official action against the Jewish people was to boycott all Jewish businesses on April 1st of 1933. In this photo, okay, you can see SA